And I find that there's two main addictions human beings as a race have. One is confusion. Confusion, people love confusion. They don't have to be responsible. They can abdicate responsibility and just live in, I don't know. Those that are committed will always find out, will always get it sorted. And the other addiction human beings love is dissatisfaction. Having coached people at a very, very high level, millionaire, billionaire status and so forth, they perceivably have everything. But here's the thing, they ain't satisfied. This isn't it yet. There's somewhere else to get. When I get there, it's going to be better than here. And we're living into this future-based world, which is always elusive because it's not, you're coaching people here that they think that if they achieved all of this, then they'd be happy. Then you got people here that have all of that and they're still not happy.
Welcome to ALA Fashion Lovers Chat Show. In today's episode, I'll be talking about the impact of transformational leadership empowerment. We'll be having Sally Addison joining us today in order to talk us through how she can empower us with her skills. She is a transformational leadership coach. So do not forget to like and share and subscribe as well, so you can have more privilege to meet and see more professionals who comes to our platform to empower our community with their skills. So stay tuned and keep on watching. Hello, Sally.
Hello, my friend, all the way from Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Welcome to ALA Fashion Lovers Chat Show.
It's a privilege to be here.
Wow, it's a privilege to see you and to have you on this platform. Oh my goodness. So Sally, you are here on our channel in order to empower our community about exactly what you do. So I would like you to please tell my audience what you do for a living, please.
So I'm based in New Zealand, but I predominantly operate offshore with high-end leadership clientele. So when you think about all of the leadership service providers in the marketplace, all of the leadership coaches in the marketplace, my frustration within the personal and or professional development industry is that people invest a lot of money into change, but it's very questionable the sustainability element of personal or professional transformation. So the education that I've developed over about a 2-decade period is solely focused on the sustainability element. You have the course junkies, hand up, I was one for 30 years, name a book, a CD, a course, I read it, listened to it, went to it, struggled to sustain the change. My background is in belief behavioral cultural change, going into large organizations, implementing cultural change initiatives. My last assignment was based in New York. I was there on September the 10th. Our offices were 5 blocks from ground zero. I was in charge of a global restructure program, 3,000 projects across 2 countries, based in the Netherlands, with accountability, Dordrecht, Rotterdam, Amsterdam, Den Haag, Boston, New York. Would travel around, holding everybody to account. But being in America when September 11th hit was my wake-up call, because this particular company was investing millions into this global restructure. My consultancy company had been paid, so they're fine. But in most cultural change initiatives, there is no post-implementation review to ensure the sustainability elements 3, 5 or plus years after the actual implementation. So I became fascinated about this elusive thing called sustainability. If you're going to invest money into change, let's make sure it's sustainable. So I returned to New Zealand, developed this education, which wasn't part of the plan, but that's what happened, and have been pretty much spending the last 2 decades coaching people of influence. So millionaires, billionaires, celebrities, politicians, CEOs, C-suite, executive, fish stinks from the head down, no offense. So that's where I dance. I love the psychology of leadership. I wrote a recent article on traditional leadership is dead. Because although we're experiencing this viral pandemic, I believe that it is highlighting the fear pandemic and the lower level of consciousness that's being experienced on the planet, because most human beings have difficulty dealing with adversity, dealing with uncertainty. And so uncertainty is my domain. That's where all the magic and miracles are. We were born connected, born intuitive, born fearless. That was our birthright, and then we forgot. So bringing people back to that state and tapping into what I term their co-creative ability. the leadership curriculum that I've developed is called co-creative leadership, or what I'd also frame as equanimous leadership. Equanimity, the ability to be the observer of what is, not how it could have been, should have been, wanted it to be. So being able to be the observer, but be able to sustain state. And the co-creative leadership side of things is who you are in your human form is limited, who you are in your co-creative form is limitless. And I often say to CEOs, have you ever tried to vacuum when you haven't plugged it in and turned it on? It's a bit tricky. Kind of like in a nutshell, that's where I dance.
Wow, this is massive. Honestly, I feel like I should have you right in my house, I go with you anywhere you want to go. Wow. Sally, I know you've got this experience almost about 20 years now, or more than 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you a question? Do you find it very challenging to say carry on with people, like mentor people, deal with people? Do you find it challenging at all?
I wouldn't say the word would be challenging. I find it empowering. Off the back of my own life journey, which I'll probably share in today's interaction. I spent a lot of my life in a lot of mental psychosis. And so the privilege that I have now is being able to give back what I've learned. What you're here to learn is what you're here to teach. And that any adversity that you've experienced in your life, I believe, is imperfection for what it is that you're here to teach. I also believe that you're never given anything that you can't handle. If you've been given it, there is a learning behind it. Your job is to turn that situation around to be able to then serve. My brand, Sally Anderson International, I talk about Ignite, Evolve, Liberate. Ignite people to get a heartbeat again. It's almost like I'm a co-creative defibrillator. It's almost like trying to give people a heartbeat again to actually get excited and passionate about their life, to then evolve them to a new level of consciousness, because most people are living at a very low level of consciousness. All of human suffering is a function of what we make things mean. Because of the level of consciousness on the planet, most people are suffering. Being able to have a vocation where I stop people hurting permanently is an absolute joy. To then be able to liberate people, the more that you can raise somebody's awareness, give them the tools and insight into what is actually going on for them to take their power back in a sustainable way. So then they liberate themselves, and then how they then show up on the planet is that they then can pay it forward and pass it on to others. So legacy for me is a very profound conversation. It's not just what you leave behind when you die. Legacy for me is one of the most powerful conversations you can facilitate with a human being on the planet. What are you doing here? What is your DNA calling you to be in the world? We all have individual fingerprints. There's something that you're meant to be doing on this planet. Have you found it yet? I often say, to having coached youth for over 30 years, given my stand for eradicating teen suicide, if you're under the age of 18 and you don't know what you're passionate about, I might let you off the hook. But if you're over the age of 18 and you're still hanging out in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond in, I don't know what I'm passionate about, I don't know my why, go and park your ass up at a cafe or a bar, pour yourself a glass of wine, beer, whatever you're into, give yourself 2 hours and don't leave there until you sort it out, because nobody can tell you that. Somebody can facilitate the conversation with you, but you are the source of what you're called to be in the world. And I find that there's two main addictions human beings as a race have. One is confusion. People love confusion. They don't have to be responsible. They can abdicate responsibility and just live in I don't know. Those that are committed will always find out, will always get it sorted. And the other addiction human beings love is dissatisfaction. Having coached people at a very, very high level, millionaire, billionaire status and so forth, they perceivably have everything. But here's the thing, they ain't satisfied. This isn't it yet. There's somewhere else to get. When I get there, it's going to be better than here. And we're living into this future-based world, which is always elusive because it's not, you're coaching people here that they think that if they achieved all of this, then they'd be happy. Then you got people here that have all of that and they're still not happy. It's crazy. So back to your original question, segued off. I don't find it a challenge. I feel it's my mission to reach as many people as possible, to be able to impart what I term awareness-based training skills. I want it in the schooling system. The fact that we still are teaching the same thing, that's a whole soapbox again there, my friend. The fact that we still teach the same thing, we're keeping the planet numb. coupled with the pharmaceutical industries, which are loving the money wheel, which keeps our, the amount of drugs that are administered globally for the mental psychosis that's happening on the planet. I've created a non-drug related solution that is a deep process, but a short process, and is a sustainable process. So I'm a threat to the pharmaceutical industries. That's not my tagline, but my interest is for my education to be in the hands of those working with the human condition. Because people are looking for solutions and looking for sustainable solutions, and they're tired, I believe. This goes for organizations as well as individuals. Because in a lot of cases, the personal development industry is actually designed to have you keep going back, which is saddening. I've got an issue with somebody who's seen a counsellor for 10, 15, 20 years, dragging out the privilege of talking about their freaking story, but not getting beyond their story. So it's almost like the unhealed are attracted to the industries who are trying to heal people. So, part of my aim is to be able to change the face of counseling and psychotherapy, the dysfunctional aspect that I'm talking about. One of the models that I talk about, psychotherapy is a long process and a deep process, and there's a time for that. The dysfunctional aspect of counseling, that is a long process and quite a shallow process, because people are in that analysis paralysis of talking about their story. Then you have the rah-rah seminars where the course junkie people live, where they're always looking outside of themselves for the answers. And that is a short process, but it's a shallow process, because you get that short shot of euphoria, feel great for a while, and then back into same old. And then where I've positioned my education is that it's a deep process, but a short process. Because I've led my own retreats for 10 years, every month, 10 months of the year for 10 years. It's been a good research ground to witness the dysfunction. This is all leadership level. The dysfunction that is rife out there with reference to what people are experiencing. Leadership, for example, most leaders have been highly trained in the, what I term, linear left brain world of traditional leadership. They yawn at the prospect of going to yet another leadership retreat. So they're unconsciously competent in their leadership space. They're also unconsciously competent in their subject matter expertise, which is why they've achieved the position that they have. But the area, which is the most important area with reference to sustainable change, is in the mindset, is in the non-linear, in the right brain. And most companies and or leaders look at that basket as, when we've got the budget, when we've got the time, which is hardly ever, it won't even get a look in. And so an article I wrote recently around traditional leadership is dead. These acts of God, tornadoes, bushfires, tsunamis, viral pandemics, are forcing humanity to awaken to another level. If you weren't willing to grow, evolve, and change before, you're now being forced to, specifically in the leadership domain. And there's a high percentage of leaders, because it's unprecedented, that are not equipped to deal with uncertainty. So I may not have been palatable for people 20 years ago, but I feel that I'm coming into my own with reference to everything that I teach, specifically in that co-creative realm, to be able to evolve leadership to a new level, to be able to change the way the schooling system works. So many people talk about, why don't we have life skills in schools? Why don't we have financial skills in schools? Why don't we have mindfulness in schools? Why do we keep talking about that? That is just a no-brainer, but no, we don't have that mandated like science and maths. Why don't we have mastery of the inner critic in the schooling system? That's a whole topic again there, girlfriend. My education teaches people how to use silence it. If you just had mastery of the inner critic in the schooling system, that would change the human psyche on the planet as we know it, for future generations that aren't even born yet. Why are we still talking about these issues? So I get on my soapbox every now and then, as you can see, banging away, because our mental health issues are basically in place because I believe, this is a pretty brave statement, it's like war. The war is perpetuated because of money. The pharmaceutical dynamic is because of money. The weight loss industry is $1 trillion industry. It ain't interested in sustainable solutions, So I come along with a non-drug related solution that provides not only results fast, but that they're sustainable. And so then I'm perceived as a threat. which is sad because all I'm trying to do is love and bring love and healing and awareness to the planet off the back of what I've experienced in my own life. So this is beyond me. It's not me waking up every day and wanting people to understand my education or selling a few coaching programs. I surrendered to what I'm being called to do on this planet years ago. And my job is to continue to get out of the way, not take the view of how others judge me personally or professionally, because I care about the fact that people are hurting out there, kids are dying out there, and it's not okay when there is a solution.
Wow. Do you know, you just mentioned something over there. You talked about why isn't it that schools doesn't introduce like anything relating to mental health or anything relating to mindset or personal development. They never talk about that. So I asked myself some times ago, saying, why is it that we don't find that in education? Because I find this a little bit, I wouldn't say challenging, but I find it slightly confusing. Like if they don't introduce such thing into education platform in school, that would cost a lot of people to keep on being misled out there. So I agree with your thoughts.
So we're impacting future generations that aren't even born yet because we're still teaching the same thing. So in the 2 books that I've written, I talk about a thing called culturalization. Currently, off the back of, I've lived a life of extreme adversity. And part of, I believe, the perfection in that journey is to be able to teach people that you can transcend any experience and that, you're never given anything that you can't handle. But the context of culturalization is that the only current way that our human species, as we know it, the human condition evolves, is through adversity, highlighted with what we're experiencing with this viral pandemic on a global scale. However, if we do not change the schooling system, if we do not introduce more evolved conscious leadership training to senior leadership, we're keeping the planet numb. And the first route people go when they can't cope is to go and get drugs. We then create acronyms, then we can actually attach a drug to it. Now, I'm not discrediting those who believe that they are depressed, or those that believe they have PTSD, or those that believe that they have ADHD or whatever. My issue is en masse, is that we endorse as a society without parallel education on what the alternatives are that are non-drug related, because it's easier for the doctors. I'm only talking about the dysfunctional aspect. There's a lot of great stuff happening out there, so I'm only talking about the dysfunctional aspect. It's a contextual conversation. So when I talk about culturalization, I'm talking about what would it be like if we had a planet where we evolved beyond what I term 1 to 3 dimensional thinking. 1 to 3 dimensional thinking is when we're still living in the conscious, lower level consciousness of meaning, default based meaning. All of human suffering is a function of what we make things mean. If you don't make something mean something, you ain't gonna suffer. Just that, it's very simplistic, right? But for somebody who's been at consequence of their mental psychosis for 20 years, that can land like a cup of cold sick, it's kind of like, what do you mean it's that easy, So I'm interested in raising consciousness on the planet such that we do not need to create adversity to learn. I believe I'm one of the best to be able to teach that off the back of having a life apprenticeship that has been a bit unique, and that I can look back and now see the perfection of that journey to be able to be in a position to be able to teach just awareness-based training skills. If you take confusion and dissatisfaction on its own, because dissatisfaction leads to people's viewpoint on depression. Confusion, I don't know how to deal with what I'm dealing with, can lead to everything leads to you're already disassociated because you're feeling disempowered, to then go to a doctor who you're supposed to trust to get doubly disempowered. And so it keeps the planet in this disassociated, numb state. I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories or Big Brother or anything like that on this conversation. However, I do believe that there are solutions to a lot of the world's problems that are not brought to market because it would interrupt the status quo. That's about as much I'll probably go into this call. I'm not really a political activist or anything, but I'm passionate that, well, I'm frustrated because I know I've spent my life creating an education curriculum that is sustainable, that is short, that is fast, that deals with some of the most chronic issues that we have on our planet. And part of what I've faced is the difficulty to reach the masses with my education because I'm viewed as a threat.
Wow. It's just as if our mind worked together, what you've just mentioned. I always think of that as well.
Yeah.
So coming to, you mentioned something relating to confusion. You did say if someone doesn't, say for instance, you are 18 years old, it's okay if you don't know what you intend to do in future as at that moment. But how about some people who has gotten to, say for instance, around 30 years of age or 30 above, and yet they are still a little bit confused on what their calling is in life?
Great question.
How would you put that?
Great. So let me just talk about confusion for a moment.
Yeah.
I have a process, and for those listening, I'll give you the process and you can use it for either you're in a critic or any disempowered feeling. In this case, we're going to talk about confusion. I just feel, for those that are listening, so that they can kind of like immediately get the shift in what they're experiencing, and I'll segue it into what you've just asked. Yes. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. Great. So I'm interested in shifting people fast. A lot of people tolerate feeling disempowered over a long period of time. So being able to have a tool where they can shift what it is that they're experiencing and actually experience that experientially, there's a huge self-interest. So let's take confusion as the example. What is confusion? So the process is reaction, recognition, evaluation, sensation, reaction. So this is being recorded. People can listen back. I'm going through it quite fast. So it's called the RESA process. Reaction. So the external experience of confusion, right, is you're reacting to something. I'm feeling confused and it's making me feel disempowered. So you're in reaction. Now, most people wouldn't view that as a good thing, whereas I view it as a great thing when everything I teach is awareness-based training. When you're aware, you can take your power back. So in future, welcome the default, welcome the disempowered feeling, and then walk yourself through this process. So confusion, we're in reaction. I'm reacting to the fact that I'm feeling confused. Immediately, once you see that, using this tool, you then observe the feeling called confusion. Interesting. I'm feeling confused right now. It's just a conversation, right? No drama. The access point has been the disempowered feeling, and then immediately go into observation. And even say, name what it is. Interesting. I'm feeling confused right now. So that's reaction. Recognition is ask one question. What's actually really going on here? That's the one question you ask, nothing else. So that's recognition. I'm recognizing that something else could be going on here. So I'm a coach intuitive. I coach to cause, not symptom. I'm always interested in what's causing it versus the symptom. So the symptom is confusion. The symptom is the feeling, right? But it's not what's causing it. So reaction, then observe, then recognition, ask the question, what's really going on? Evaluation. I'm disconnected. I'm feeding either something out into the future that hasn't even happened yet, or I'm dragging in something from the past. Human beings were born into the now moment, and then they forgot, and then they moved into the known realm, stuck in their heads. Every aspect of disempowered feelings, every aspect of the meaning that you attach comes from past and future projections that you have a choice on whether you feed or not. If you're unaware, then obviously that plays out. So from the minute that most human beings get out of bed in the morning, they're feeding past-based projections, future-based projections, both, right? They're actually not present, and they're certainly not connected. So it's like trying to vacuum when you haven't plugged it in and turned it on. Now, I'm not attached to what people call it, higher power, universal force, collective consciousness, God, as far as being able to tap into who you are in your human form is limited, who you are in your co-creative form is limitless, co-creating with the unknown. As part of what I teach leaders at exec level, go figure. So we're in evaluation. So the first thing with evaluation is, I'm disconnected. What am I feeding? So in the context of confusion, probably it has to do with something from the past or a fear of something you're creating in the future. Acknowledging that, coming back to the present, and then sensation is, you got to know what you're motivated by. If you want to sustain change, you got to know what you're motivated by. And I normally facilitate a conversation with people and land 3 things. Motivated by love, motivated by faith, motivated by freedom, motivated by fun, motivated by joy, what are you motivated by? 3 core things. So when you're disempowered, you're always hanging out in child mode. When you're empowered, you're in adult mode. So part of this process is training you to be the adult, because you can, as the adult, stop piss-assing around. There's a lot of little boys, little girls running businesses. So in sensation, you reconnect to what you're motivated by, and the speed with which you shift your state, now that you understand what's going on, is the mastery piece. The key to self-mastery is not about not getting triggered, it's the length of time you spend in the trigger, a minute, an hour, a day, a week, a month, whatever. So just really quickly, reaction, name what it is. Confusion, interesting, I'm feeling confused right now. Recognition, what's really going on? Evaluation, I'm disconnected, I'm feeding these projections. Land what they are, come back to the present. Sensation, reconnect with your motivators, and then move your sorry ass, because you are the adult. You have a choice on how you feel, on how you react, on what you do. You got a choice moment by moment by moment on how you feel when you are armed with the tools on how to shift that state. I'll give you another example. If fear is present, recognition, you're in reaction, fear is present. Interesting, I'm feeling fear right now. What's actually really going on? I'm disconnected. What am I feeding? Reconnect to your motivators, move. I'm not feeling confident. I'm not feeling confident right now. What's actually really going on? It's cyclical. One process that deals with every disempowered issue. Do you know this is the only process I use with people who are depressed to get them off depression drugs? Let's use it for depression. You're in reaction. I'm feeling depressed right now. I'm feeling depressed right now. What's actually really going on? I'm disconnected. What am I feeding? That's all that's going on. These frigging projections that we keep feeding, which have no validity, but the validity to which we're given it. Training yourself to reconnect to your motivators and moving. Now, if you can't move, the only reason for that is that you're getting more out of staying in the dysfunction than you are out of what it's costing you. Most people can rattle off the cost of things not working for them, but if they were present to those costs, they would move in a heartbeat. So in the study of ontology, the study of what it is to be human, they distinguished that there were certain things that human beings get out of staying disempowered, staying in dysfunction, and they're called ontological payoffs. You get to be right, you get to make others wrong, you get to be justified about your point of view, you get to dominate, manipulate, and control. You don't have to be responsible there. You get to be a victim feeling powerless to change the situation. Unless, and if kids were taught in schools what your ontological payoffs were, and to be able to get present to the cost, then people wouldn't hang out in these past and future-based projections but it is so simplistic that every single disempowered feeling, within reason, is a function of disconnection feeding projections. Now, if people were armed with that and knew how to shift their state and had clarity, because if you clear to the universe on what you want, it's very easy for the universe to deliver. Stinking thinking, how many books do we need to read that say, be careful what you think, your thoughts create your reality? Well, they do. And, most people are not vigilant on where their thoughts are focused on a moment by moment basis. So people say to me, Sally, do you mean to say that I've got to monitor what I think on every single moment of every single day? I go, yeah, because you're the creator of your reality. Language creates the reality of your world. If you want the world to change, you need to change your language. And so the mantra that I live by is think, do, say, be equals forwarding the game. You need to know what your game is. If you don't know what your game is, no wonder you're feeling the way that you are, because you're not making traction with it every day. People who have confusion going on around their passion or their goals, I will eventually answer this question, that is part of what I term their default level of identity. So I believe everybody has an individual fingerprint. They also have a default identity, a default blueprint, which is hindering them from achieving their greatness, achieving the potential, because they're not aware of this default-based mechanism. We don't teach humans that every single person has an individual unique default because they all have an individual unique journey. And all of that stems from childhood. I don't care whether your childhood's been great or not. At the end of the day, all of our beliefs and values were adopted in childhood. They then form the behaviors, usually from our parents, our environment, our teachers, our siblings. That then forms the structure. Like in a house, there's the foundational structure. There's a foundational structure within a human makeup. That then forms the culture, who I marry, how I dress, where I live, my worldview, and then that produces the results. If you want any level of sustainable results, you need to go back to the original wiring, because we adopted positive and negative to then be able to change the behaviors, the structure, the culture, and the results to have sustainable results. But most people think that if they go and look at their childhood, they've got to psychoanalyze it. I'm not talking about that. The core of your default mechanism stemmed there, but it's still running today. You're not aware of it. Take an organization, for example. Every single organization on the planet has human beings in it. If we are to entertain that every single person has a unique default blueprint that is hindering them from achieving greatness, that they are unaware of, there must be a collective default undercurrent within the culture of every organization on the planet. Now, you can't tell me that doesn't have a bit of a resonance, that doesn't have a bit of an impact on society as we know it. Bringing awareness-based training, having co-creative schools, co-creative universities that teach and study and research this level. Again, going back to, we were born connected, born fearless, born intuitive. That was our birthright. We understood the unknown realm. For those listeners listening, if you have children, just look at them. They are in the moment. They're in the beingness state, you know. They're not attacked. They don't have an issue with uncertainty because they're in the beingness state. And then we learn as a culture to, you know, gung, 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 and only live in the known realm, which is very, very limiting. My coaching does not come from my knowledge. My coaching comes from me having lived a life that I have, learnt from it, and I'm just a direct channel. I'm a conduit for information to come through me. If I tried to think about what I wanted to say, which is why I speak quite fast, training leaders on how to access and tap into that co-creative ability is part of my passion. So back to your question, sorry, segued off, was reference to confusion and what are you doing on the planet, and answering that question for yourself if you're over the age of 18. Two things. One, if you're under the age of 18 and you don't know what you're passionate about, the fact that we don't teach this in the schooling system is a crime. The fact that we don't partner our youth globally in every single bloody school on the planet about getting really clear on what it is that they want, that should be a number one over and above financial skills and life skills and mindfulness skills. That's just a no-brainer. Oh, gets my go. So, but if you are of the age of 18, you're still hanging out in confusion, just know that your default mechanism that you're not aware of, there's about 7 different layers that make up one's default mechanism, which is part of my education, bringing awareness to that. Part of it is that it's a safety mechanism, conscious or not. Your default, albeit how destructive it is actually a safety mechanism. And so if you are unclear about what it is that you're doing on the planet, first of all, let's just land that you can't transform something that you're unwilling to know. You can't transform it unless you're willing to own it. So say, for example, if you're hanging out in confusion, you are a professional saboteur. Every day that you tolerate not being aware of what it is you're doing on the planet, you're sabotaging not only your potential, but the potential of making the change and the significance that you want in the world. It's quite a profound statement. So if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for those that you're here to serve, because I believe we're all here to serve. We are all here. Love is all there is at the end of the day. It ain't complicated. We just complicate the shit out of it. So for those that are listening that are unaware of why they're here or they're hanging out in confusion, first of all, there is a safety dynamic going on. There is something from your childhood hindering you from getting the clarity. And healing is key. Now, I'm not undermining the word healing can send people places and that, you know, it has a bad connotation in the marketplace. All I'm saying is that there are practitioners in the marketplace that can assist you to do the healing that is required for you to gain the clarity. So that's one recommendation I would make, is that if you're hanging out in confusion and you think, because it's not reality, you think that you don't know, the reason why confusion is convenient is that you don't have to take responsibility. It's a great relinquishment bucket. There's 5 relinquishment buckets human beings love. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough money. I don't know how. And manifesting illness. Beautiful relinquishment buckets. Because here's the deal. Somebody who is committed will find the time. Somebody who is committed will find the energy. Somebody who is committed will find the money. Somebody who is committed will find out the how. And somebody who is committed will look after their health and not have to manifest other, Mack truck experiences to learn their lessons. So confusion, first of all, I just want them to land that it's a convenient relinquishment bucket. It's linked to safety of some dynamic back to one's childhood. That's my opinion, having coached thousands of people in this. Number 2 is, as far as answering the question about, what is it that I'm here to do? People are so serious, significant, and dramatic. I call it SSD. People actually are addicted to drama. So when you park your ass down somewhere for 2 hours, have some fun, bring the play back. You could go somewhere with a big scrap piece of paper and crayons or pencils and re-access that creative side of yourself. And just download. If how didn't impact the creation of what it is that you want, what would you like to do? I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. A really simplistic process is the 4 lifts exercise. What do I want to stop doing? What do I want to start doing? What do I want to do more of? What do I want to do less of? That exercise is so simplistic yet so powerful. If you don't, well, Sally, how can I possibly stop doing that? How can I possibly start doing that? Park the how. How kills all possibility. But when you move, providence moves too. So that exercise, what do you want to stop doing, start doing more of, less of, is fantastic, right? If you give yourself permission, man, I'd like to stop doing that and that and that and that and that, but man, I'd love to start doing that. Then you deal with the what first. Because when you are clear to the universe that that's what you want, so if your listeners aren't across the hero's journey, got to watch a movie called Finding Joe. It's all about following your passion, living your purpose. Finding Joe is great for pretty much kids above the age of 8, definitely every adult. Interviewing some of the best philosophers on the planet around your calling, about your purpose and what you're doing here. So Finding Joe movie, Google it, and following the hero's journey. So Joseph Campbell talks about the 12 stages of transformation, where we are born into the unknown realm. We then learn to only live in the known realm and then transition out into the unknown realm. The journey of one's transformation through those 12 steps, fantastic. I've gone through those 12 steps about 50 times, given my life apprenticeship. But for those that are resonating with this message, the hero's journey is the best, that needs to be taught in schools, is the best training with reference to understanding your contract on this journey called life. A book I'd recommend is called Why Me, Why This, Why Now by Robin Norwood. It's a great read with reference to understanding sometimes why certain things happen. Why did I have to go bankrupt? Why did I have to get a divorce? Why is my business not working? Why am I having to be impacted by this viral pandemic? People have so many why questions, and then they stay in confusion. And if you're confused about anything, you will never be satisfied, and you will never certainly be happy. So I train people to be a 10 every day. What would your life look like if you could be a 10? What is your version of 10? I'll walk into a supermarket and somebody will say to me, "How you going?" I said, "I'm absolutely extraordinary." And they'll go, "What happened?" I go, "Nothing, I just choose it." I choose it because I know that I'm the creator of my reality. If I hang out at a 2, I then am attracting 2 experiences. So I'm one of the fastest to shift my state because I'm cognizantly aware of what it is that I'm attracting, which is linked to that mantra that I live by: think, do, say, be, forward in the game. Is what I'm thinking forward in the game? If it's not, I don't think it. Is what I'm saying forward in the game? If it's not, I don't say it. Is what I'm doing moment by moment forward in the game? If it's not, I don't do it. And in who I'm generally being on a day-to-day basis, is that forward in the game? If it's not, I don't be that. That trains you at a high degree of integrity, to ensure that your game is forwarded, but you got to know what your game is. So dealing with confusion is understanding why you're confused and what you're getting out of it. Number 2, that exercise. What do I want to stop doing, start doing more of, less of? Pros and cons, getting present to the cost. What are the pros of staying with my current existence? what are the pros on, shifting it? You've got to get present to the cost of what you're tolerating. Human beings love tolerating disempowerment. What would your life look like if you didn't tolerate anything that wasn't working? Oh, that's a good one. What would your life look like if you didn't tolerate anything that wasn't working?
Wow.
We as a society tolerate and think that life's doing it to us. No, we're the one who is creating it. And we have a choice, which is part of what I teach. You have a choice, moment by moment, to live and lead an equanimous life, I believe is the ultimate, which is where you can be the observer without being impacted by external circumstances, and because you have raised your awareness to such a level that you understand what's going
on. Sally, you are awesome.
Thank you, darling.
Oh my God. Okay. There was an article which you wrote recently about intuition. Can you throw more light into that? Because
Sure.
As when I was growing up, my mind always tell me what would happen, and sometimes I notice if I look at something too much, I could control it with my eyes just for it to happen. So I thought it was just a joke, and it not until when my mother, confirmed a couple of things to me, then I thought, oh my God, I should listen to my intuition. So could you throw more light into that for us, please?
Sure. So that too should be taught in the schooling system. What is intuition? How do you access it? What is it about? It's our lifeline to all the answers that we could ever need. So to me, I liken it to a GPS system or a Wi-Fi system. So, most of us have devices now. What does it feel like when Wi-Fi is not working? What does it feel like when the GPS isn't working in your car? They're really good analogies for how we as a society operate. We can tap into the unknown realm any moment of every day, and the irony, it's free. And how do we tap into that? We tap into that by listening to our intuitive voice. That intuitive voice is your guidance system. So I'm unconsciously competent in my ability to connect to the unknown realm. I don't need to call it anything. I'm not personally religious, but I've coached everybody from every religious realm, political realm, spiritual realm, from atheists right through. I respect what each person believes on whatever path that is for them. However, I find that there's a high level of hypocrisy of those who use the word faith as the guise to be more superior, but they're not generally walking their talk. Somebody, for example, who has a faith, but they won't actually bring their faith into their business, that to me is hypocritical. If you have a faith, whatever that is for you, you should be celebrating it and should be walking it 24/7. So intuition is your internal guidance system. You, prior to pretty much the age of 3, you lived there. Kids I'm either crying one minute or pissed off the next. Kids are instantaneous in the moment, in that beingness world. And so what is intuition? It is your internal guidance system to all the answers that you will ever need. Intuition is your most powerful muscle, but you've got to use it. Try being in a relationship when you don't communicate. If you're not communicating in a relationship, it's going to be interesting. So if you're not communicating moment by moment with the unknown realm, then more for you, because you can never be alone as a spiritual being. Spirituality for me is about trusting the unknown as much as you trust the known. I'll say it again. Spirituality for me is about trusting the unknown as much as the known. People complicate it. The minute they hear the word God, they go places, if I use the word faith at corporate level, they immediately collapse it into religion. And I don't have disrespect for religion. It's just, that's what happens in corporate. So the book that I wrote, the second book, is called The Co-Creative Age, The Next Evolutionary Phase in Leadership. The word co-creation seems to be palatable in the corporate arena. I'm not talking about co-creation in the context of collaboration. I'm talking about co-creation with the unknown. So intuition is your internal guidance system. It's the answer to everything. It's your most powerful muscle, but you got to use it. Evidence-based people are waiting for evidence to show up before they trust. That's the majority of people on the planet. Evidence-based people are waiting for evidence to show up before they trust. Trust and possibility and faith-based people know that if they trust, that the reward will be evidence. So the irony of finding evidence for those that are evidence-based, that this thing called intuition, like trusting first thought. You just mentioned your experience from childhood. Usually there's a fear involved because we can see, we can hear, we can intuit. That is a natural gift that anybody can tap into and refine. And be that on a there are so many different levels of sensory connection. So to me, without complicating it, if you're in a relationship with somebody else, you need to communicate. That is evident with reference to your relationship with your faith, whatever that is for you. And the way that you communicate is through your intuition. You trust your intuitive signs. You start asking the ether, teach me, show me, guide me. Give me a sign this week. So if you're new to this and you're not aware, then, and you're skeptical and cynical, that's okay. It's all good. But start asking for what it is that you need to quantify or validate that there is something there that you can engage with. I'm just connected to it 24/7. I gave up being a human being years ago. It's all too hard. And I'm in communication 24/7 with reference to what it is that I'm meant to facilitate on this plane, and teaching others on how to access that. So I've gone from unconscious incompetency, which is the 15-year-old in the car trying to drive the car, it's all a bit clunky, to get in the car now, you don't even think about it, you're unconsciously competent. So that journey, you can become unconsciously competent in the journey of self-awareness, in the journey of being at one with your intuitive knowing, which is the other benefit of cultivating that intuitive voice, cultivating and listening to that intuitive knowledge, is that you then shift from wanting to knowing. You know, when you live in the realm of knowing, then you become the core manifester of what it is that you want to achieve in your life.
Wow.
And I believe we're all here learning different lessons. The only way that I've been able to understand why some people go through some things and others not is due to their life apprenticeship here, you know, and that whatever it is that you've experienced, regardless of how bad it is, has been in perfection to make you who you are today, to be able to give back what you've learned, I believe.
Wow. Sally, you are magical. Can you give me 3, say, unique advice, say, for my audience over here, if they want to find their pace in life, you know, how to make them keep themselves really happy, you know, as human? Because if you look at this world, if we don't have a great mentor in our life, we tend to keep on, you know, roaming around. And it's not that some people don't want to get a mentor. Sometimes they can't afford it, or sometimes situation may warrant a couple of things or whatever. So could you please give us 3 good unique points in order to, as a guidance for human in general?
Yep. So money is never the issue. That too can land like a cup of cold stick for maybe some people that are listening right now. Now, I have been somebody who has created a lot of crisis in her life to survive, crisis to survive, crisis to survive, crisis to survive. So I understand how easy it is to create dysfunction. So never use money as the excuse as to the reason why you can't forward your game, because that is part of your default identity I talk about. So 3 recommendations. Number 1. The number 1 success strategy for everybody on the planet who's achieved any level of major success, the number 1 thing that they do, all of them, is morning practices. And it has to be mandatory, not optional, mandatory. So this is what I do. These are my morning practices. I will meditate first thing when I wake up. So the power of breath, learning how to meditate to get out of the monkey mind, is almighty powerful. 30 years of meditation. So I meditate. I then go for a walk for 45 minutes. On that walk, I listen to an audio of all of the goals that I want in my life affirmed in the positive as if they've already happened. So that's on audio. So I've outlined all the goals that I want in my life in all the areas. I've then written it in the affirmative as if it's already happened. I then put that on audio and I listen to that every day on that walk. I then listen to a podcast of a motivational nature, so I'm always learning something new. So I'll learn that. I also have other affirmations, financial affirmations on, clearing my energy field that are on audio that I listen to. So it's not just a 45-minute walk. There's a lot going on when I'm on that walk. So I've got my fitness, I'm feeding my brain, I come back, I'll then do 1 page of a gratitude journal, 10 things that I'm grateful for in my life every day, new things, so that I'm always in a space of gratitude. One book that I would recommend your listeners to purchase is a book called The Magic by Rhonda Bryn. She talks about
I got it somewhere.
Beautiful.
I got it recently.
Yeah, so 28 principles on gratitude. That rocks. And I love, and they're really simplistic things that you can do to bring more abundance into your life. I just yesterday got this feng shui bracelet. I love feng shui. I love everything about it. It's staying open to new things. I only put it on within half an hour. Something shifted financially for me from half an hour putting it on. I don't know how it works. I don't really care, but I'll do things differently to get a different result because I'm committed. So those are my morning practices. That's what I apply on a day-to-day basis. Does the wagon wheel fall off? Of course it does. Reset, put the wagon wheel back on, and Bob's your uncle. I have an accountability partner that I talk to once a week who I send a photo to every day of me on my walk to say that I've actually done it. So, I do a quick video just saying my word for another day, and, that keeps me on. Now, that accountability partner is great because if I don't want to get my sorry ass out there, I know that they're waiting for that video. So it's another added level of accountability and commitment. So the one recommendation of the 3, one is your morning practices. Find out what they are for you. There's enough online to learn, which is my second recommendation. There, especially if money is an issue, there is enough on the internet. We are living in a technological age. There is enough on the internet to immerse yourself for free, to do anything with mindset, anything to do with transforming your situation. You Google anything you got going on, you will find solutions. I personally love Jerry and Esther Hicks. Jerry has since died, but Esther Hicks's work, they're all about living in the vortex, how to get into the slipstream, how to manifest what it is that you want. I believe that she's provides insight beyond the law of attraction. There's 20,000 videos online. Another book I'd recommend is Ask and You Shall Receive. I think it's what it's called. It's one of the Jerry and Esther Hicks's books. It's fantastic. You've got to ask for what it is that you want. You need to stay open. You need to be clear. It's a fantastic read. So number 1 is personal boundaries. The number 1 success strategy of anybody who's achieved any level of success on the planet, they have morning practices in place. Number 2, because that's your petrol. Try and get in your car and ain't got no petrol, ain't going to go anywhere. You need to fuel yourself on a given day. Number 2 is immerse yourself in the education that lives online. There is no excuse for anybody to tolerate what they're tolerating, especially if money is the excuse. What are you doing every day to be a lifelong learner, to always stay the student, to feed your soul with? So I am listening to so many podcasts and so many videos. It's my vocation, obviously, but I'm also doing it for myself. The beauty of being a coach is that you get paid to keep yourself in. I will always have private clients. People said, why do you still coach privately? I go, because in this work you need to be clean. I'm not talking about hygiene. I'm talking about integrity. And from that standpoint, you've got to walk your talk. And so by having coaching clients, they keep me in with what it is that I advocate. Number 1, morning practices. Number 2, lifelong learner. What are you doing every day to feed your soul, feed your mind, of a positive nature? And number 3 is healing. I don't care how bad or good your childhood was. There is no human being on the planet that is devoid of healing. If your past is in your future, you know that you need healing. Healing is the thing that will give you peace. Do the work, basically, is my third recommendation. And that can be, there's a time for coaching and there's a time for healing. Coaching in isolation isn't sustainable. Healing in isolation isn't sustainable. Two together, very formidable. So I'm a advocate for people to experience both coaching and healing together for the sustainability piece. Because sometimes, as a coach, you have to know when not to coach. Because if somebody is in their wound, they can't hear you, they don't want to hear you, you know. So from that standpoint, I align myself with some of the best healers to complement the work that I do. So that's my third recommendation. Healing for anything from your past that's impacting your future. If it's still impacting your future, you're the one who keeps putting it there through your monkey mind. Because there's only one place to look. And two is get a coach, get a mentor, an accountability partner. Stop sassing around. Those that are successful have coaches in their life, have mentors in their life. Seek them out. When you're ready, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And I believe that there is a plethora of choices available nowadays to find the right person, and do the due diligence and do the investigatory work to find the right person who's right for you. Because if you have a issue with having somebody support you, you will achieve your level of results, and that's fine if that's what it is that you're willing to tolerate. It's not for everyone. Not everybody is committed to transformation. But here's the deal: commitment equals results. Wherever the results are being produced in your life is a function of your current commitment. Yeah, that can land like a cup of cold sick, because a lot of people think that they're committed. What do you mean I'm not committed? I go, are the results being produced? No. Here's the deal: you ain't committed. You want it, and you're doing a shitload, but it ain't happening because there's something going on over here for you, and you got to do the work to be able to transcend that. It's just that where I come in is that I'm interested in not having to continue to psychoanalyze, interested in bringing awareness, understanding, knowing how to shift, and then be able to sustain that shift so that you become more of a contribution on the planet versus hanging out in this monkey mind that's destroying your possibilities.
Wow. So one other thing is, I know you do conventional soft coaching. Is this relating to how you coach, or?
So I'm a dangerous woman to talk to. Language is my vehicle. I listen to the language tells me where I need to go.
Yeah.
So from if I interpret this correctly, so I'm not formally trained in anything, which is probably why I get away with everything. I'll go to places other coaches won't go to get results other coaches won't get. I am a fearless practitioner off the back of my own life apprenticeship. I have a huge, because I'm focused on sustainability in the style of coaching that I do. So I've trained over 100 coaches in my methodology. I'm interested in my education being a toolkit for those that are working with a human condition. I'm very passionate about seeing that be a reality, because I'm interested in educating the planet on why something is happening, not ongoingly. Once you land the why and you understand it, you can take your power back. When you understand your default blueprint, the integral thing that has created who you are and why you think the way you think, when you understand that, you can take your power back, and then you can start training yourself, if it's of interest, to be able to be the best version of yourself and know how to sustain that. So I believe that just like the leadership development arena, it needs to evolve as consciousness is evolving. Same with the coaching industry. The coaching techniques of the past are not suited to the future of where we're headed, because it lies in the linear left brain world versus where we're headed, which is more the unknown, the uncertain domain, which to me is where the magic and the miracles lie. It needs to evolve as we evolve, and at the moment it's not.
Okay. I can see you've designed your own 3 days leadership coaching retreats. Can you tell us more about that? I mean, if anybody wants to have you as a mentor, or if they want to guide them, how do we have to go about it?
So I'm very big on providing value, and I'm not for everyone. So that's the first thing I'd say. I'm not for everyone.
Yeah.
But for those that I do resonate for, I only operate on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of free resource on LinkedIn. So I've done a number of interviews and presentations. They're online. I write articles on a weekly basis on evolving leadership consciousness and mindset mastery. So there's a vault of information there that your listeners can go and immerse themselves in. They'll just know. It's not really, to me, it's trusting your gut, it's trusting your intuition, whether this education resonates for you or not. And I trust that is the right journey. Yeah. So LinkedIn is the only medium that I'm on. I don't have a website. I'm not in any other social media. I just choose LinkedIn because it's a business medium out of respect for the work that I'm doing. The second thing I'd say is I led those 3-day retreats for 10 years, every month for 10 years. I no longer lead those retreats. And that's not to say that in the future I may do them again, but right here, right now, my focus is in working privately. We'll be considering maybe group online, but at the moment I prefer the private interaction. Like working with intimate groups, a group of 10 people, being able to take them on a 3 and or 6 month journey, contemplating that at the moment. So I offer a 1-hour free consultation for those that are interested in dancing and conversation. I'm interested in customizing the work that I do. The benefit for those in the UK is that I charge in New Zealand dollars, so it's very cost effective considering what I would usually charge. It's kind of like 50%, it's half price in English pound to what it is in New Zealand dollars. So it's a great market for me at the UK. And I lived there back in, showing my age, back in 1986, 87. I'm 55 now. And good old Kiwis from New Zealand always go and do their OE in the UK. So there's a lot of free resources online. LinkedIn, go and have a look at the details. I offer the 1-hour free consultation. If any of it resonates, I'd love to have a conversation and see what's possible.
Thank you very much, Sally. One other question. You mentioned healing earlier. How do you do the healing? You said you work with probably other coaches that does the healing. Can you tell me more about it?
Cool. So finding the right healer. So when I'm talking about healing, I'm not talking about psychotherapy or counseling. And again, I'm not discrediting. There's a time for that. So I believe when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So when you acknowledge that, yes, there is a need for healing. And how do you know that? Your past is in your future. The past will continue to be in your future until you've done the healing. That's my opinion. Because to live a life where your past doesn't impact your future, man, that's like walking on water. You can't even put a dollar value on that. Finding the right healer, that's a different equation. So again, I believe when you move, Providence moves too. And if you look at the hero's journey, it talks about the cycle that you're in. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear and the mentors will come in. So first of all, you need to decide that you're ready. And then once you're ready, then we're all connected. I'm a connector, you're a connector. When you're ready, you go to your network. Who are the best healers that you know of in the world, right? Then you got a plethora of people to choose from because you trust your network. It's not really something that most people talk about, but leverage your network, a lot of people know a lot in this space. And I believe that if you're ready, then the right person for you. One process does not apply to all, which is why I'm not for everyone. Most people who get in front of me, if you're not committed, I'm not a really good person to be in front of because I only work with people who are committed. I only want to associate my brand with sustainable solutions, right? To be a representation of the work that I do. So I'm very selective on who I work with because of my commitment to humanity as a whole. So yeah, that would be my recommendation, is that when you're ready, the teacher will appear. Ask people that you trust within your network, who do they know? And then from that, trust your intuition as to who resonates for you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Sally. I mean, I'm so impressed to have you.
Look, it's been my privilege. And I really want to acknowledge you for the work that you do and the people that you serve. And I believe servant leadership is one of the best. So the God in me acknowledges the God in you, and so appreciative of the opportunity to address your people today.
Thank you very much, Sally. It's a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for putting a smile on my face.
Anytime, my friend, anytime.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Bye for now.
Bye. Goodbye. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope to see you next time. And do not forget to leave a comment and by letting us know what parts you find so useful in this video. And do like and share and subscribe in order for you to see more professionals who comes here to empower our community with their skills. Thank you. God bless. See you next time. Cheers.